Hello race fans, welcome to Race Week. It's finally race week again, a bit of a 2-week break. The Azerbaijan Baku race. I'm very excited for this one. And it's been a big week. I know it's going to be annoying for people who are fed up and sick of talking about it already, but the biggest news this week, Adrian Newey obviously signing to Aston Martin, which was a little disappointing to be honest. I know there was a few of us hoping that he might be going to Ferrari, but as Ted was saying, is there any point in him going to Ferrari? Ferrari won the last race. They're in a good position, arguably the second fastest car, at least I'd say. Red Bull are definitely not the fastest. They're fourth fastest, I'd say. Mercedes pinching ahead. McLaren have the fastest car. So like Ted said, I don't know if any of you have read that article, but he was saying, would Adrian Newey find a challenge in going to Ferrari? But yeah, let's dive into it. Let's have a bit of a talk about it. So Adrian Newey's gone to Aston Martin. He's signed for a record deal of £30 million. That's massive. I think there was a figure, a statistic, excuse the lisp there, a statistic saying that each hour he works, he'll be paid £4,036, I think it was. That's mental. But yeah, he officially joins in March of 2025 after the garden leave from Red Bull. And he's obviously one of the most important figures in F1. He's done so much for the sport. And a key designer with the new regulations, these new ground effect aero on the floors, is something that he is all way too familiar with. He's done plenty of aero work for boat racing and things like that. So when teams were struggling with porpoising, that was not really an issue for Red Bull because he knew already how to solve that. So he's key in these new regulations. But you do need a certain amount of resources to snatch him up, which Lawrence Stroll is not short of. He's a billionaire, and Aston Martin is his baby, really, isn't it? It's his project, it's his livelihood, it's everything he wants. I mean, when he was choosing the colour for the team, he said the colour needs to be fast, and he had every say in how he wanted the colour to be, down to the minute detail. They went through so many shades of green. That's how much he cares about the team, to be fair to him. But getting a guy like Adrian Newey is especially important with the new 26 regulations coming up. It's one of the biggest for the changes for the sport that we've seen in a long while. It's not just aerodynamic changes, but it's also chassis and engine changes. Of course, last time there was a big engine change in the sport. Mercedes went on to dominate for the next 8 years, constructors-wise, 7 years drivers-wise, if we're being picky. So he's definitely an important man to have in your team. And to be fair, if there's one team underperforming right now, you would have to say it's Aston Martin. The amount of money they've put into that team, and they're not exactly where they should be. But with him joining, that should definitely put them on the map. With the amount of money he's put in, I'd say it should be a top 5 team at least. But they're definitely underperforming, and I feel like with Adrian Newey coming into there, going to show improvements, but I feel like the driver lineup needs to change to definitely show them improvements. Sadly though, I don't think he's ever going to get rid of his son Lance. A lot of people say that his son is there because his dad's in the sport, and I think it's unfair to a point. But he has been shadowed by Alonso. Alonso is obviously a great driver. But I feel like there's some good options to replace him with. And maybe in time, Lawrence may need to bite the bullet and replace Lance Stroll to definitely get the best out of his team. But yeah, that's an argument for another day, I'd say. Putting Adrian Newey in the team is definitely going to put Aston Martin back on the map again. The only thing is, though, Alonso is their best driver and he's going to retire soon. I mean, another story, and that's for another day. it's a whole new argument for maybe an argument for 2026 if I'm lucky enough for the podcast to keep me going by then. But getting back to Adrian Newey, he's done so much for the sport. I think constructors wise, 1992, maybe the first time he started with Williams. And I think that went up to maybe 1998, 97. And they were drivers and constructors championships won through those years. And then I think he had a couple of years at McLaren. It was either 2 or 3 years at McLaren, and they won. Oh, I think it was 2 because they won drivers and constructors 1 year, and then drivers championship next year. And then after that, he went to Red Bull, and that was the famous domination of Sebastian Vettel for the next 4 years, where they won constructors and drivers for the next 4 years, and I was very tired of seeing that same finger from Sebastian Vettel. And then, if I remember right, he stayed with Red Bull through that, and then it was from 2021 onwards, Red Bull won the drivers, obviously, and then constructors and drivers the next 2 years after that. So, and arguably they might not win anything this year, but it's no mistake that Adrian Newey was in those teams through their success. Yeah, he's had some amazing accomplishments, and it's not a bad CV that. So there's no wonder a lot of teams were fighting for that man in his team. A man of that caliber is going to make big changes for a team like Aston Martin, because they are nowhere with it this year. The new regulations give him a chance to show his genius as well. Like I was saying, these ground effect floors are everything at the moment. We're seeing where in the past front wings were vital. If you lost your front wing in the race, that's it. You had no downforce for the rest of it, and you had to pitch straight away and get a new front wing. And now we're seeing with these new ground effect floors, if you damage your front wing, it's not so bad. You're getting all your downforce from the clever aerodynamicist engineering of the floor, dragging that car down. So yeah, 2026 gives him a real chance to show his genius. And like I say before, when other teams were struggling in the power Python and things like that, his experience with I don't know if they're called power boats or sailing boats or something like that, but he worked with Red Bull in that department as well. So I see Aston Martin doing great things in 2026 onwards. Maybe 2025. I definitely think they'll improve in 2025, but I don't think they'll be top 4, especially with McLaren and Ferrari having a good grip on the things at the moment. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's understood he's signed for 20 million, and it rises to 30 million, I think, in 2026, with bonuses on top of that, though. And those bonuses surely depend on where that car finishes. So if the car finishes in good positions, and he gets bonuses on top of that 30 million. But if it doesn't get the best out of the car, then he's not going to get any bonuses, obviously, which is massive. That's a good pay packet to be getting that. And Lawrence thinks he's worth it. Lawrence thinks he's got a bargain, which is incredible to say. I know Aston Martin are underperforming at the moment. That's a big investment for them. Also, I don't know how it works. Does that come out of their cost cap? Such a big wage? Because surely that should be a cost cap thing, right? The cost cap was obviously brought in to equal the teams out, so that if you spend more on your aero, you can't. If you're a bigger team, if you spend more on your aero, you just throw as much money as you want at it. They brought it in so that it equals out, and if you finish higher up in the championship standings, you don't get as much wind tunnel time and things like that. Whereas if you finish lower down, the lower teams get more wind tunnel time and things like that. But yeah, does it come out of their cost cap? I don't know how that works. Because to throw 30 million at a signing, that's incredible. But saying that, another reason why I don't think it's too much of a bargain is Adrian Newey is 65 years old. And I don't know how many years he's got left in him. I don't need to be rude, but by 2026, he's going to be about 68 because I think if you remember rightly, his birthday is Boxing Day. So he's going to be 66 at the end of this year. So by the end of the 26th season, he's going to be 68. How many more seasons has he got left in him? And how long before he has to delegate the work down? And Fernando Alonso is going to be retiring soon. You would argue he's going to be retiring before Lewis Hamilton, but because he is older than Lewis Hamilton. And it's going to revitalise him a little bit, getting Adrian Newey in the team, so that'll be great for him. But yeah, I don't know how long Adrian Newey's got left in him. I hope a while, because the more teams at the top fighting for it, the better. I want McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, Aston Martin, anyone else who can get in there. I want them fighting because the races are going to get better and better. And we have no idea who's going to win the next one. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. Of course, back when it was all kicking off, Adrian Newey was linked to the Ferrari move, wasn't he? A lot of people said because if you remember a bit ago, he went on record saying that he'd love to work with Lewis Hamilton before he retired, and a lot of people remembered that and thought that, oh, it's fallen in place with when it got announced that Lewis was moving to Ferrari, and Ferrari's going to be a mega structure to compete with next year. And yeah, obviously that wasn't the case. I touched on it a little bit before with when Ted was saying it's not going to be as much of a challenge for him, and I get that. Maybe that is the defining factor in it. Maybe he wants to challenge. Yeah, Ferrari seems like a bit of a dream move, especially for me being a Lewis fan. I want to see Lewis get an 8th world title. That'd be awesome. But as humans, we crave that challenge, don't we? And Aston Martin is going to be that challenge for him. Yeah. Like I say, it would be great to see Aston Martin fighting there, but I think to actually get there, they're going to have to make changes in the driver lineup. They're going to have to. I think they're going to have to replace Lance Stroll. They're going to have to think about getting maybe an F2 driver in his place, but if Fernando Alonso doesn't have too many years left in him, they're going to need 2 new drivers soon. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but yeah, it's something that I think is definitely in the cards. Also, I don't know if 2025 is going to be a competitive season for Aston Martin. I'm just thinking, because you need that kind of year to settle in, don't you? You need the year to... Because he's not going to be allowed at the factory right now, tearing bits out of the car saying, this is crap, that's crap. But, yeah. Maybe Lewis doesn't need Adrian Newey at Ferrari either, though. I think if it stays like it is, it won't be too much difference. I mean, obviously, it's going to stay like it is. I don't know why I said that. But when Lewis moved to Mercedes, he won 6 titles without the help of Adrian Newey. And I'm just... So maybe he doesn't need Adrian Newey at Ferrari. If Ferrari, they also won the last race, so if they keep up what they have now, and they're strengthening the team that they have within them, starting to make those good team decisions, because they absolutely nailed the strategy in the last race. Nobody saw that coming. McLaren could have competed with them, but I don't know if anybody saw the interview after the race with Lewis. He made the very good point that McLaren were putting in too quick a times too early, pushing way too early, wearing their tyres out way too quick. And Ferrari just nailed it. They kept the pace, stopped when they need to, and made that one stop work and caught McLaren slacking. If McLaren focused on Ferrari rather than trying to stop their teammates fighting or whatever, then they might have seen that they were trying to one stop way earlier, maybe even before a race started. I mean, that's maybe a bit unfair because it's always easy to look at things in hindsight, but these are the dangers that McLaren face with not having clear directives in the team. But yeah, if Ferrari keep on with this strong stepping stones and cornerstones that they've got to work on, then Lewis could be in with a very good team. And like I was saying, he won 6 titles at Mercedes without the help of Adrian Newey there. And you can say what you want, but Mercedes built that car. They didn't cheat off anyone or anything like that. There was no shadow of a doubt. They just built a good car. So, yeah. Maybe he doesn't need Adrian Newey. And maybe Adrian Newey needs Aston Martin more than we realise, because like I was saying about the challenge, everybody craves that challenge. Everybody craves the want to take something and make it better and develop it in that sense. And it's that competitive streak that's in people. And I think that's what Adrian Newey is falling back on more than anything. Like I say, I think Aston Martin is the one team on the grid that's underperforming and underachieving where they should be the most out of anyone else. Also, apologies if this podcast is a bit backwards and forwards. I'm doing a little bit of a new approach to it. So I usually write these notes out and on my notepad and then go through it bullet point by bullet point. It's a bit more structured, but this time I'm doing a little bit of a more off the head kind of discussion. See if it feels a bit more natural and just talk about it more. But of course, with Adrian Newey going to Aston Martin and the potential to create a powerhouse there, as I was saying, the future of the drivers is not at risk, but it's under question, isn't it? Fernando Alonso is older than Lewis Hamilton, so he'll be retiring at some point. So will Max Verstappen join Aston Martin? Could we see the big move to Aston Martin in the future? Max is going to want to win titles. He's going to want to keep achieving and racing at the best he can. If Aston Martin make a good car, is that where we see him going? And let's not forget, all these staff movements have come around after it came out that whatever is happening with Christian Horner is happening. So, because a lot of people left, and Adrian Newey was able to get out of his contract early because of this. So, are we starting to see a decline of Red Bull? We've already seen, after the asymmetric braking was banned, a major decline in pace from Red Bull. And there may be a connection to that. A lot of people may be saying that's rubbish, John. You know what you're talking about. It was just a coincidence that after the summer break, Red Bull have lost pace because others have brought upgrades. Personally, I think that's rubbish. I think it's no coincidence that when asymmetric braking was banned, Red Bull seemed to have lost a massive amount of pace. That is no coincidence. In F1, it's very rare that coincidences happen. I think it's very obvious and everybody knows it. And I think that could also be the reason that a lot of staff was leaving Red Bull. But yeah, I think we're going to see Max leaving Red Bull very soon. If not this year, definitely the year next. Or maybe 2026 when the new regulations come in. Because Red Bull are in a very sticky situation right now. They've lost their main designer. And it's a horrible time to lose Adrian Newey 2026, the chassis changes, the engine changes, the aerodynamics change, the whole car changes, and you've just lost the guy who won you the titles, built you the best car. And who do you replace him with? 2025 is going to be the deciding year for Red Bull. If they get a good car together, then they can look to 2026 with optimism. If they fail and start finishing 12th or 18th down the grid, then 2026 is going to be a worrying time for them. You need a good base to work off, and yeah, this could be a dark time for any Red Bull fans out there. But on the subject of new signings, Ferrari have a new chassis technical director. I butchered the pronunciation of it, but I think the name was Loic Sarra. But yeah, they're going to be the new chassis technical director. They did join in May as the performance and engineering team in the chassis. But they're going to be the director now, as of October the 1st. And they'll basically be responsible for the whole overseeing of that department, let's say. The chassis performance and engineering department. They'll oversee everything with that now. The good thing is, he's from Mercedes. So that'll give Lewis Hamilton a familiar face to see. Because I think Lewis is going to struggle next year. He has some big changes to go through. New team, new culture, new place to live possibly, new fans, new language to learn, whole new garage to learn with very, very passionate mechanics, a lot of new faces. So the more familiar faces he has in his life, the better. Brand new car, different way to design his car. There's probably a different seating position for him, because don't forget, he doesn't like to be sat too far forward. It could be sat too far forward. For me, it seems a bit finicky, but I imagine for someone who's driving at over 200 miles an hour every race, that makes a massive difference to be able to feel where the car is. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Going to this weekend, Oliver Bearman is in place of Kevin Magnussen. Of course, Kevin Magnussen has his one race ban to serve, which has been a while, I think, in F1 since we've had a one race ban for a driver because of penalties. Personally, I can't remember the last time that there was one. No, I can't remember, but it's a good chance for Oliver Bearman to get his feet in the door again. He's been in 4 practice sessions in this year's Haas, I think, if I remember rightly. But yeah, I think it was 4 practice sessions. Of course, Haas is the younger team of Ferrari. It's like the entry team for Ferrari, not the younger team. So it's a great chance for Oliver Bearman to get his foot in the door and show him what he's made of again. He had a good outing last time. It's always challenging for a reserve driver to get his foot in the door because you don't have much preparation when you're thrown into the seat. You kind of just there when you're there. He dropped in at a deep end, really, so to say. But he does have, like I was saying, he's had the 4 pre-practice sessions in first practice 1 sessions. Yeah, pre-practice 1. I said it right first time. In this year's car, and he did race in the Ferrari as well. So he's not really being dropped in it too much in the deep end this time, but a difficult track for him. A lot of barriers, and obviously the street circuit, but he's not new to a street circuit. He's obviously raced in Monaco in F2 and stuff like that, but the F1 cars are very demanding. Franco Colapinto in the Williams last time out was saying that he was very sore after the race. So it's a very high speed and demanding track, Baku. So hopefully Oliver Bearman has a good outing. We will soon see. Of course, when K-Mag comes back into the car in the next race, he's going to have 0 points on his license. And that's not to say that a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, you can drive like a madman now. No, he's not going to be driving like it's Mad Max. He's still going to drive sensibly, because don't forget, every bit of money that they have to spend on this car now comes out of the cost cap. So if any damage happens to that, it comes out of their budget. Comes out of their budget for research, comes out of their budget for manufacturing parts and everything. So the team will tell him, obviously, you can't be crashing anything or anything like that. And also, I think, doesn't he get a fine for these things? I'm sure he gets a fine. He's not going to want to incur any fines. Looking back to this weekend, though, the pressure is building now. We're starting to get into those final races of the season. You could argue we're into the final third of the season easily now. And it's Red Bull and McLaren, isn't it? It's between Red Bull and McLaren, which is nice. It's nice to... it's bloody nice to see McLaren up there again. The last time we saw McLaren fighting for championships was with Lewis Hamilton, and it's a shame that they've not been up there since, but it's nice to see them there now. I'm really hoping McLaren sort these issues out. It's going to be an interesting test for them this weekend. They really... Will Buxton touched on it. Well, he didn't touch on it. He ranted on it quite strongly with some of the points I was making in the previous podcast, if any of you have heard that previously. But they really need to prioritise the drivers. And it's not a case of nationality being above all else. It's literally whoever's got the most points needs to lock in, and the team needs to be behind them and push for those points, because every point counts. You can't be wasting precious points like these, and it can easily be the difference between winning it before the last race or losing it at the last race. When I say it, I mean the championship, sorry, the World Drivers' Championship. I think McLaren have the Constructors' Championship in the bag. They just stay consistent. They've got the car to be finishing 1, 2 or 3 each race now. So they just keep doing that, and they're going to win the Constructors' Championship, I reckon. Red Bull don't have the car to keep up with them in that sense. But as long as Max stays consistent, he can cling on to this title if he can. Like I say, he just needs to stay consistent and hold in there. If McLaren keep messing things up like this, they're just going to gift it to Max. Lewis knows a lot about this. Like I was saying before at the beginning of the podcast, it's one gravel track that could make the difference. He, very early on in his career, could have won a championship because of it. But McLaren need to sort it out, and quickly. But I think it's going to be a tough weekend for Red Bull. It's a very fast track, this. They're in the 4th fastest car easily, unless something's changed over these 2 weeks. But this is McLaren's race to lose. Ferrari might surprise us. They had a quick car last time, but it was the strategy that won them last time, not the car. So I think it will be an interesting race. There was some gossip about Daniel Ricciardo's future. Seen a little bit of gossip on it, saying before the Baku race there's going to be an announcement made about Danny Rick's future. I hope that it is that he's staying in F1, because we need drivers like Danny Rick in F1. I've always thought that he's more than capable of winning a championship. He's just not been in the right car at the right time. And week after week he proves that he's not only still got it, but he also deserves to be in F1. So I think it'll be a shame if we lose a character like Daniel Ricciardo over some that are on the grid right now that shouldn't be there. So yeah, I'm interested in that. Like I say, it was gossip, but who doesn't love a bit of gossip, right? Apart from that, though, I don't really see... I mean, I might be wrong. I think it could be Ferrari and McLaren fighting it out this weekend, you know, and then Mercedes and Red Bull picking up the pieces. Yeah, I reckon it could be that. Pole position is going to be a tight one again in qualifying, but Mercedes are going to be at it with Red Bull, and then it's Ferrari and McLaren going for the 1-2 spot. Also, you're going to see now in the last third of the season, lower teams start to get their elbows out a bit now, because every championship point means money. So this is the good part of the season where emotions run high, stress runs high, Perez starts to feel pressure. We see drivers making silly mistakes and teams absolutely screaming on the pit wall. I love this part of the season. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to this weekend's race too. Like I say, it's a street circuit and we're in for a good one. So yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. And on Wednesday, we'll talk about how eventful it was. Take it easy.